It began, as such things often do, with a book. Isla had worked in the library of Murthra for 5 years. It was a quiet place, nestled between old stone hills where mist drifted down like falling lace each dawn. The library itself was older than the town, its columns crooked with age, shelves lined with volumes no one had opened in centuries. Isla loved the hush of it, the creak of old pages, the faint scent of lavender and parchment. Her days were gentle, her work simple. Until the morning she found a book that wasn't there yesterday. It was dawn when she arrived, rain soft against the leaded windows. She opened the great oak door, hung her damp cloak, and lit a single lantern. And there, on the center reading table, rested a book bound in green velvet, its corners stitched with silver thread. No title. No markings. Yet it pulsed faintly beneath her fingertips, as though it possessed a heartbeat of its own. Frowning, Isla opened the cover. No words. Only a single line inscribed in shimmering ink. Beneath the lake, where stories sleep, the library waits. A chill traced her spine. The lake. There was only one it could mean, Lake Elmere, half a day's walk beyond the forest edge. Locals told strange tales of it, mirrored waters, vanished boats, songs heard at midnight. Isla glanced about, but the library was empty. Drawn by a strange pull, she gathered her cloak and the green-bound book. The rain had slowed to mist as she stepped into the soft gray morning. Just a look, she told herself. But beneath her words, a deeper knowing whispered. She would not return the same. The forest path to Lake Elmere wound beneath towering silver birches, their trunks pale as bone against the morning fog. Isla walked in silence, the green-bound book pressed close to her chest. Each step deepened the quiet. No bird sang here. No branches stirred. Only the soft rhythm of her boots against damp earth. Beneath the lake, where stories sleep. The words echoed in her mind with every breath. By midday, she reached the forest's edge. Beyond it spread Lake Elmere, vast, glass still beneath a sky the color of ash. The air smelled faintly of lilac and rain. Not a ripple marred the surface, though a gentle wind pressed against her cloak. She hesitated at the water's edge. The lake was strange in its beauty, perfectly reflective, as though the sky itself lay beneath the surface. Stories told of lights glimpsed beneath the depths, of whispered voices, of scholars drawn here who never returned. Just a look, she reminded herself. But as she opened the book once more, new words had appeared. Touch the water. Speak your name. Heart pounding, Isla knelt at the shore. The cold seeped through her fingers as she reached toward the lake. Isla, she whispered. At once, the water stirred. Circles spread outward in luminous rings. The lake no longer reflected the sky, instead, it showed a great stairway of marble, spiraling downward into darkness. Without thought, Isla stepped forward. The lake held her weight as though it were stone. The green book pulsed softly in her hand. One step. Then another. Downward she walked, the world of wind and birch fading behind her. The water darkened around her, yet her breath came easy, as though the lake itself had drawn her into its fold. Then, beneath her feet, marble gave way to ancient stone. The stair ended at a vast archway carved with glyphs of ink and star. Beyond it, a great hall, lit by unseen lanterns. Shelves stretched upward into darkness. The air smelled of old ink, salt, and something older, memory itself. Isla gasped. She had found it. The library beneath the lake. Isla stood at the threshold, breath caught. The library beneath the lake was unlike anything she had imagined. The vast hall stretched beyond sight, its stone walls veined with lines of glowing ink that pulsed faintly, as though the very stones remembered words long forgotten. Shelves rose in spirals, some curving into impossible arches, others twisting around great marble pillars. Books of every size and color lay in ordered rows, many bound in unfamiliar materials, scales, pressed leaves, thin sheets of metal. The air was warm and dry, carrying the subtle scent of lavender, parchment, and something else, the deep hum of magic woven with memory. Isla clutched the green-bound book, its pulse matching the gentle thrum beneath her feet. "Come forward," a voice whispered, not aloud, but within her mind. "You are seen." Heart racing, she stepped beneath the arch. The light shifted. Above her, words in flowing script appeared across the ceiling, languages she had never learned, yet somehow understood. All stories seek their reader. All readers seek their story. She moved slowly past rows of towering shelves. Some books stirred as she passed, fluttering open, releasing faint motes of light that drifted upward. In a quiet alcove, a great librarian's desk stood, carved from deep blackwood, its surface layered with scrolls and glass spheres. Behind it sat a figure. She was tall and slender, her skin pale as vellum, hair black as ink. Eyes of deep violet regarded Isla with calm curiosity. "You have come far," the librarian spoke, voice like the turning of pages. "The library called you." Isla swallowed. I found the book." She offered the green-bound volume. The librarian's eyes gleamed. "Few can read its call. Fewer still follow. You are welcome here, Isla Ivren." She rose with fluid grace. "But know this, the library is alive. It remembers, it hungers, it heals. What you seek, it will offer. What you fear, it will reveal." Isla's heart pounded. "Why me?" The librarian smiled. "Because your story is not yet written. And here, the unwritten are precious." She gestured to the great hall. "Come. Your first reading awaits." Isla followed the librarian through winding aisles that seemed to shift with each step. One moment, the shelves were narrow and lined with dusty tomes, the next, they curved wide around pools of still water inlaid with floating text. Above, invisible wings whispered through the air. They reached a circular chamber whose walls were formed entirely of open books, their pages turning slowly on their own, as though breathing. In the center stood a reading table of white stone, smooth as still water. Upon it rested a single book, bound in shimmering indigo leather, its clasp shaped like an eye half closed in sleep. "The reading room of whispers," the librarian said softly. "Here, books find their reader. You will not choose. It will choose you." Isla approached hesitantly. As her fingers brushed the indigo cover, the book opened of its own accord. Ink flowed across its pages in shimmering script. Isla Ivren. Reader. Seeker. Child of memory. Her breath caught. "Your heart holds a question. Speak it." The librarian nodded encouragingly. Hands trembling, Isla whispered, "Why was I called here?" Ink flared across the page. "Because your line remembers the lake. And beneath it, the library remembers you." Isla's pulse quickened. "My line." The book turned a page of its own accord. Images formed, a woman with Isla's eyes, cloaked in green, stepping beneath Lake Elmir long ago. A silver quill gleaming in her hand. Ivren. Once keeper. Once lost. Now called. The librarian's voice was gentle. "Your ancestor was one of us. When the library weaves a new thread, it seeks the strongest line." Isla stared at the glowing text, heart thrumming. What must I do?" The book's pages fluttered, settling upon a single line. "Restore the forgotten wing. Its stories sleep in shadow. Without them, the library's song will fade." The librarian met her gaze. "A great trust is placed in you, Isla. Will you accept it?" Though fear stirred in her chest, a deeper resolve rose to meet it. "I will," she whispered. The librarian smiled. "Then your story begins anew." The librarian led Isla down a spiral stair of translucent stone. The air grew cooler with each step, the pulse of the library deepened, resonating in her bones like the distant beat of a great heart. The forgotten wing lies beyond the reach of ink, the librarian explained softly. A place sealed when the lake's song was first broken. Why was it sealed? Isla asked. The librarian's violet eyes gleamed in the dim light. Because some stories grew too wild, too restless. Their truths cut deeper than time. They reached a small antechamber, its walls covered in flowing script that shifted like rippling water. At its center stood an archway woven of silver branches and black root. Its surface shimmered faintly, as though resisting entry. The librarian extended her hand. By line and memory, the path is opened. The archway shuddered. Silver light spread outward, weaving into a doorway of liquid ink. She turned to Isla. You must enter alone. Isla's throat tightened. Why? The wing will know you. To aid you too closely would distort its will. Trust your steps. She placed a slender silver key in Isla's palm. For the locked heart. Isla nodded, breath shallow but steady. Drawing her cloak close, she stepped through the liquid threshold. The world shifted. She stood now in a vast hall of twilight, its ceiling lost in shadow. Shelves leaned drunkenly against broken columns, books lay scattered across the floor, their pages fluttering with unseen breath. A soft whisper filled the air, not words, but longing. Restore us. Isla moved cautiously among the fallen shelves. Here, light pooled in strange ways, some areas gleaming with soft gold, others swallowed in velvet dark. She paused beside a toppled pedestal. Upon it lay a thin volume bound in midnight blue. Its cover bore a single word. Memory. As her fingers brushed it, the book opened in a sigh. Images swirled across its pages, faces half remembered, paths untaken, tears both shed and withheld. To restore us, you must face your own shadows. Isla's breath caught. A figure formed beside her, tall, cloaked, with her own eyes staring back. Will you walk with me? The shadow asked softly. Though her heart quailed, Isla whispered, I will. Hand in hand with her shadow, she stepped deeper into the forgotten wing. And the first tale began to awaken. The forgotten wing seemed to breathe around Isla and her shadow self. Each step stirred motes of pale light from the floor, drifting upward like fireflies caught in a dream. Together, they passed beneath a crumbling archway. Beyond it spread a small, hidden chamber where a single tree grew, its branches bare, its bark the color of faded parchment. The shadow paused. The silent orchard, it whispered. Here, the first tale waits. At the base of the tree lay a worn volume bound in soft gray leather. Its spine bore no title. Isla knelt beside it. The moment her fingers touched the cover, the tree shivered, a faint hum filling the air. The book opened itself. Once, there was a grove where no voice was heard. No song, no word, no cry. Only silence, deep and soft as snow. And within it, a single child who had forgotten how to speak. Isla's heart ached. She turned the page. The child wished to remember their voice. To awaken the orchard song. But first they had to listen, not with ears, but with heart. The tree seemed to lean closer. The shadow's voice was gentle. You must listen, too. Isla closed her eyes. At first, there was only the soft rustle of unseen leaves. Then, beneath that, a thread of song, fragile, faint, woven of longing and memory. She let herself sink into it. Images rose in her mind. A child beneath starlight, lips parted in wonder. A mother's lullaby, barely remembered. Her own voice, as a girl, laughing beneath the library's shelves. A tear traced her cheek. Will you speak again? The shadow asked. Isla opened her eyes. Yes, she whispered. And with that word, the tree bloomed. Silver leaves unfurled, shimmering softly in the dim air. A gentle chime echoed through the chamber. The book's final page revealed new words. Voice remembered, song restored. One tale reclaimed. Isla rose, heart lighter. The shadow smiled. You walk well. Together, they moved on, deeper still, where more lost tales awaited. Above, unseen, the library stirred. Beyond the silent orchard, the corridors of the forgotten wing grew stranger. Some passages spiraled upward, though Isla felt no climb. Others bent gently sideways, as though the library had long forgotten what straight meant. Soft inklight pulsed along the walls, veins of living memory guiding her path. Her shadow self moved beside her, its presence quiet and steady. At length, they entered a tall, narrow chamber whose walls gleamed like liquid silver. Names drifted across them. Countless names, each glowing briefly before fading into the next. No pattern. No order. The hall of unwritten names, the shadow whispered. Here dwell stories unclaimed, voices not yet shaped into tale. Isla's breath caught. One of these is yours. The shadow gestured to the wall. As Isla stepped closer, the names slowed, one shimmering brighter than the rest. Isla Ivren. Beneath it, 3 faint lines of text began to form, then stuttered, blurred. Your story is yet unwritten, the shadow said softly. To restore the wing, you must offer its first line. Isla's heart pounded. But I don't know it. You do, the shadow replied. In the voice beneath doubt. Listen. She closed her eyes, centering her breath. Within the hush of the library, beneath the pulse of ink and stone, she heard it. A longing to mend what was broken. A thread of memory seeking to weave anew. A voice ready to be heard. Her eyes opened. I walk to restore forgotten voices, she whispered. I walk to remember my own. The wall shimmered. Her name brightened, its lines now flowing. I walk to restore forgotten voices. I walk to remember my own. A gentle warmth filled the chamber. Another thread mended, the shadow said. A slender volume of pale ink appeared upon a nearby pedestal. Take it. The wing remembers. Isla did so, heart steady. The shadow smiled faintly. We are close now. One tale remains, the tale that sealed the wing. Isla looked ahead, resolve growing. Then let's find it. The corridors narrowed as they walked, stone giving way to smooth ink-dark walls that pulsed faintly with each step. The air grew cooler, weighted with a quiet grief that pressed upon Isla's heart. Her shadow's voice was soft. This place remembers sorrow. The final tale lies here, unfinished, waiting. Ahead, a small archway stood, framed in woven root and silver thread. Within, a single pedestal held a book bound in black silk, untouched by dust or time. The tale that sealed the wing, the shadow whispered. Isla approached slowly. The air trembled as her fingers brushed the cover. The book opened itself. Once, there was a keeper who wove stories into life. But when her heart was broken, her tale was left untold. Grief unraveled her words, her silence sealed this wing. Only when her story is heard may the wing breathe again. A name appeared in faint ink. Isla Ivren. Isla's breath caught. Your ancestor, the shadow murmured. Tears blurred her vision. She turned the page. Ira's love was lost beyond the lake. In seeking him, she gave her voice to the deep. Her tale sleeps unfinished, bound by her own sorrow. The shadow placed a gentle hand upon Isla's shoulder. You carry her line. You must speak what she could not. Isla closed her eyes. Memories rose unbidden. Fragments from childhood, her mother humming a sorrowful tune, her grandmother gazing long at the lake, unshed tears gleaming. She opened her eyes, voice trembling. I remember you, Ira. I remember your love, your loss. I will speak for you. The ink flared. Speak. Through her tears, Isla whispered. You sought to bind love with story, to hold what time could not. But in letting go, you gave us all the gift of memory. Your tale is one of love, not loss. It is told. It is heard. The book shone with silver light. A gentle warmth spread through the chamber. The sorrow lifted, replaced by a deep, aching peace. The shadow smiled. She hears you. The wing breathes once more. A soft chime echoed through the library. Books long silent stirred. Shelves straightened. The pulse of ink brightened. Come, the shadow said. It is time to return. Hand in hand, they stepped from the chamber, into a library renewed. The walk back through the corridors of the forgotten wing felt transformed. Where once the air had hung heavy with grief, now a quiet warmth pervaded the space. The shelves straightened, their books humming faintly, as though in gentle conversation. Motes of light drifted through the air, drawn toward Isla and her shadow self. At each threshold they crossed, the ink-veined walls pulsed once, an acknowledgement, a greeting. You have done well, the shadow whispered. The wing breathes again because of your voice. Isla's heart swelled with quiet pride, and a deep sense of belonging she had not known she sought. But what happens to you now? She asked softly. The shadow smiled, eyes shimmering with silver light. I was bound by your silence. Now, I am part of you once more. As they reached the silver archway where their journey had begun, the shadow paused. One last step. It reached out, touching Isla's heart with slender fingers of light. A warmth spread through her chest, like the gentle echo of her grandmother's lullabies. You are whole. The shadow's form shimmered, dissolved into motes of starlight, and flowed gently into Isla's being. Breath caught, she closed her eyes. When she opened them, the library beyond had shifted. The great halls now gleamed softly, as though washed with new ink and light. The librarian awaited at the threshold, a rare smile upon her lips. You have done more than restore a wing, Isla Ivren. You have woven your voice into the library itself. She stepped forward, extending a slender, silver-inked quill. A keeper's quill. Yours now, should you choose it. Tears pricked Isla's eyes. I do, she whispered. The librarian inclined her head. Then come. The other keepers await. She led Isla through the renewed halls, past towering books of gold and shadow, past the reading room where pages turned of their own accord. In the great rotunda of ink, figures waited, each bearing the silver quill. As Isla entered, the library itself seemed to hum with welcome. Keeper, the librarian intoned softly, voice echoing across the dome. Speak your vow. Heart steady, Isla raised her quill. I vow to guard these stories, to honor their voices, to weave memory with care. I vow to listen, to speak, to remember. A deep chime rang through the library, soft, resonant, eternal. The rotunda's books stirred. The inked veins of the library glowed with gentle light. And so Isla Ivren became a keeper of the library beneath the lake. Her story, once unwritten, now sang through every stone and page. The rotunda's light slowly dimmed to a soft twilight glow, casting long shadows that swayed gently across the marble floor. The ceremony complete, the gathered keepers bowed their heads in silent welcome before drifting away into the library's vast halls. Only Isla and the librarian remained beneath the great domed ceiling. You walk a new path now, the librarian said softly, her violet gaze steady. No longer a seeker alone, you are one who listens for the stories yet unheard. She handed Isla a slender tome bound in silver-dusted leather. Its cover bore no title, only an empty frame. This is your keeper's journal. In it, you will inscribe the stories you witness, the voices you aid, the truths you help to weave. Isla traced the soft leather with trembling fingers. "Will it know what to record?" she asked. The librarian's smile deepened. "It will know what your heart knows. Let it be your companion." They left the rotunda, the quiet hum of the library rising to greet them. The halls now seemed more alive to Isla's senses. She could feel the subtle current of memory that flowed through the very air. Books whispered softly as they passed, inked glyphs shifting faintly upon ancient spines. She caught glimpses of other keepers along the way, some old, their faces lined with countless turnings. Others young as herself, each moving with quiet purpose. One keeper, a tall man with skin like dark polished wood and eyes of pale gold, offered her a small nod as he passed. Lysen, the librarian, led Isla to a small alcove beneath an arched window of stained starlight. "This will be your study," she said. "From here, you will begin." She gestured to a low desk, a shelf already holding a few slender volumes. A deep cushioned chair awaited, soft as a breath. Isla set down her journal, heart swelling. I never imagined this." "You were called," Lysen said gently. "And you answered." She placed a hand upon Isla's shoulder. "Rest now. When you wake, your first task will find you." That night, beneath the starlit window, Isla slept for the first time as a keeper. And as she dreamed, the library whispered, new stories seeking her voice, lost voices waiting to be heard. The dream had only just begun. Isla awoke to the gentle hum of the library beneath her skin. A subtle rhythm she now understood not as sound, but as invitation. Soft light filtered through the stained glass, painting her study in hues of indigo and silver. The green-bound book from that first morning now rested atop her desk, its pulse calm and steady. A quiet knock stirred the air. She rose to find Lysen standing beyond the archway, a faint smile on her lips. "You are called," she said simply. Lysen led her through winding corridors Isla had not yet seen, deep halls where the air smelled faintly of sea salt and ink, where books hung in suspended rings of metal, spinning slowly as though caught in unseen currents. At last they reached a narrow bridge arching above a vast, dark void. At its center floated a single pedestal. Upon it rested a torn scrap of parchment. "A fragment," Lysen explained. "From a tale long thought lost. It called to us in the night. It calls to you now." Isla approached. The fragment shimmered faintly, as though longing to be whole. She brushed her fingers across its surface. Words bloomed faintly. "And beneath the root of stars, the one who waits still dreams. Forgotten, yet unwoven." The parchment pulsed, a whisper unfurling in Isla's mind. "Find me. The library holds the rest of this tale," Lysen said softly. "But its pieces lie scattered, hidden deep within the starlit stacks." She placed a slender silver token into Isla's palm. "This will guide you to the first thread." Isla closed her fingers around the token, warm, thrumming faintly in time with the unseen pulse of the library. "I will find it," she said. Lysen's smile deepened. "Then go. Trust the library's voice, and your own." The starlit stacks lay beyond the reach of ink, a labyrinth of shelves where starlight drifted between the books like living mist. No map could chart its paths, one moved through intuition, through the library's subtle pull. Isla entered alone. The moment she crossed the threshold, the token in her palm flared gently. Its warmth tugged her left, then downward through a spiraling aisle. Books whispered softly as she passed. She seeks. She listens. A voice returns. At a lonely shelf bound in copper leaf, the token grew warm as a sun. Isla reached toward a slender volume bound in pale blue silk. Within its pages, another fragment awaited. And when the chime of forgotten stars was heard, the root would awaken. The page pulsed beneath her touch. One step closer, the library whispered. Smiling softly, Isla closed the book, heart alight. The dream wound onward. And the tale waited still. The starlit stacks breathed softly around her, vast and quiet as deep water. Isla moved slowly through its shifting paths, the silver token in her palm growing warm, then cool, then warm again, a gentle compass attuned not to place, but to the pull of unfinished words. Books whispered faintly as she passed. She listens. One who weaves. A keeper walks. Time lost its grip within the stacks. Minutes stretched or folded, some aisles seemed to curve upon themselves, while others led Isla deeper than any corridor should. Yet she trusted the token's subtle guidance, and her own growing sense of the library's living pulse. At a wide arch of woven branches and pale stone, the token flared. Beyond it lay a small alcove where a single tome hovered in midair, its pages fluttering though no wind stirred. The cover read, Dreamroot. Isla reached for it. The book opened, ink flowing softly across its pages. Beneath the lake's true heart, the Dreamroot lies bound. Guardian of stories, keeper of forgotten threads. Awakened only by a voice freely given. The words pulsed, and once again, a whisper unfurled through her mind. Find me. Beneath the root of stars. Isla's heart quickened. She closed the tome gently, gaze drifting upward. Above her, faint motes of starlight spiraled, drawing slow patterns in the air. Among them glimmered a new path, revealed not by stone or ink, but by living light. The starlit way, she breathed. The token pulsed in agreement. Isla followed the floating lights upward. They led her through high, narrow bridges strung between towering shelves, their spines gleaming faintly beneath the starlight. Here and there, forgotten scrolls and fragments drifted like leaves caught in a timeless current. At last, the lights coalesced at a single great door, its surface of ancient root and deep-scribed glyphs. The token's warmth faded. A single line of script shimmered into being. Speak freely, keeper, voice to voice. Isla drew a steady breath. I seek the Dreamroot, she whispered. I seek to mend what was broken. A low, resonant chime echoed through the door. Its roots stirred. Unfolding like petals, revealing a path descending into soft violet light. Welcome, Isla Ivran, a voice whispered. Come, and remember. Heart alight with wonder, Isla stepped forward. The dream wound deeper still. The path beneath the ancient door spiraled downward through walls of living root, veins of soft violet ink pulsing gently beneath their surface. The air was cool and rich with the scent of earth and old parchment. Isla descended in silence, the silver token now dim, its task complete. Yet she needed no guide now. The library's pulse thrummed in her bones, in the rhythm of her breath, as though she had always belonged here. At last, the stair opened into a vast chamber bathed in violet light. At its center grew the Dreamroot, an immense tree whose roots coiled through the stone and beyond, its trunk woven with flowing script that shimmered faintly with each slow pulse. Its branches stretched upward into darkness, bearing no leaves, but hung with countless threads of light. Each a fragment of story, swaying gently as though caught in some unseen tide. At the base of the Dreamroot stood a single pedestal. Upon it rested a slender vial of silver ink, pulsing softly in time with the Dreamroot's heart. You have come, the voice whispered, closer now, within Isla's mind and the air alike. You seek to mend. To weave anew. Will you give your voice freely? Isla stepped forward, heart steady. I will, she whispered. Then take the ink. Speak with your truest voice. Restore the thread. Hands trembling, Isla lifted the vial. It warmed beneath her touch. She uncorked it carefully, its light spilling across her palms. Without knowing how, she dipped her keeper's quill into the ink. Before her, a blank scroll of shimmering parchment unfolded upon the pedestal. Begin, the Dreamroot whispered. Breath caught, Isla closed her eyes. The words came not from thought, but from memory, a thread woven of longing, love, and hope. Beneath the lake where stories sleep, I seek to mend the tale undone. To awaken voices lost to time, to bind what once was broken. Let this be the song that weaves anew. The ink danced across the parchment, living, breathing. A deep chime resonated through the chamber. The Dreamroot shivered. Its branches flared with light, threads weaving swiftly, drawing lost fragments into new patterns. You have mended the tale. The air thrummed with gentle warmth. A single thread of light drifted downward, wrapping softly around Isla's wrist. Now you carry it forward, keeper of the Dreamroot. Tears traced Isla's cheeks. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you, the voice echoed gently. For remembering. The chamber quieted. The Dreamroot pulsed with soft light, whole once more. With reverence, Isla gathered the now inscribed scroll. Her task complete, she turned toward the spiraling path. A new keeper walking beneath the root of stars. The path back through the living root seemed changed, as though the Dreamroot itself now pulsed in harmony with Isla's every step. The light was gentler, the air richer. The roots whispered softly beneath her touch, not in words, but in warmth, welcome, and knowing. As she emerged into the starlit stacks once more, the library's hum greeted her, stronger now, clearer. The threads of light that had led her before now hung loosely in the air, drifting with a new grace. She mended the tale, the books whispered. The keeper walks whole. Dreamroot breathes anew. Lysen awaited her beyond the threshold of woven branches, violet gaze shining with quiet pride. You have done what few could, she said softly. You wove what was nearly lost. Isla offered the scroll reverently. The Dreamroot gave this, she whispered. Lysen took it with gentle hands, her expression solemn. It will be placed in the rotunda of first threads, where all may read what was reclaimed. She touched Isla's shoulder. And so you become not only a keeper, but a weaver of memory. Isla's heart swelled. As they walked back through the library's shifting halls, other keepers paused to greet her with subtle bows, eyes bright. Word had already spread, a keeper who mended the Dreamroot, a tale thought impossible. In the rotunda, Lysen placed the scroll within a tall, glass-bound case. Its words shimmered softly for all to see. And beneath the lake where stories sleep, I seek to mend the tale undone. The gathered keepers bowed their heads in quiet reverence. Later, beneath the soft glow of her study's stained starlight window, Isla wrote in her journal. Today I wove a thread unseen. I spoke a voice forgotten. And in so doing, I found my own. She closed the journal, heart full. The library hummed around her, not as walls and shelves, but as a living dream. And beneath it all, the Dreamroot pulsed, its song joined once more to the great weaving of the world. As she drifted into sleep, the library whispered. Rest now, keeper. The dream turns ever on. When Isla awoke, the library felt changed, not just around her, but within her. She lay beneath the pale starlight streaming through her study's arched window, the gentle hum of the library thrumming softly in her chest, as though a new thread had been woven through her very being. Her first conscious breath carried the scent of ink and lavender. Her first thought was clear. I belong here. A soft knock stirred the air. Rising, Isla opened her door to find Lysen waiting, a slender bundle in her hands. You will need these, the librarian said with a smile. Within the bundle lay a new cloak, deep emerald lined with silver thread, its clasp shaped like a winding root, and a small pouch of shimmering ink. For weaving new words, Lysen explained. Isla donned the cloak reverently, feeling its gentle weight settle around her shoulders. You are keeper now, in full, Lysen said. And new voices already seek you. She led Isla through winding halls into the hall of whispering threads. Here, pale threads of light hung suspended from vaulted arches. Each thrummed faintly, a voice seeking a keeper to answer its call. As they entered, one thread flared softly and drifted down toward Isla's open hand. Chosen, Lysen murmured. It calls to you. The thread pulsed gently against Isla's palm. A faint voice echoed in her mind. Lost in ink and ash, a child's story waits to be found. Her first keeper's task. Lysen's eyes held warmth. The thread will guide you. Listen well. Isla nodded, resolve steady. The thread wound itself gently around her wrist, its pull light but certain. Through shifting aisles and forgotten corridors, Isla followed the thread's subtle tug, each step deepening her bond with the library. At last, she reached a quiet alcove where a small, soot-stained book rested alone upon a high shelf. Its cover bore no title, only the faint imprint of a child's hand. As she touched it, the thread wove gently into its spine. The book opened with a sigh. Once, there was a little boy who loved stories more than stars. But when the fire came, his words were lost in smoke and sorrow. Tears pricked Isla's eyes. Will you help me remember? The voice whispered. I will, she breathed. Settling beneath the alcove's soft light, Isla opened her journal. Today I weave a child's forgotten story. I will listen. I will remember. I will mend. And with her first stroke of the quill, a new thread began. The soot-stained book lay open before Isla, its fragile pages brittle beneath her fingertips. Words flickered faintly across them, half-formed, like whispers trapped between breaths. Once, there was a little boy who loved stories more than stars. The line shimmered, then faded. When the fire came. Nothing more. Isla dipped her silver quill into the gifted ink. The vial shimmered softly, warm beneath her hand. Begin not with thought, but with heart, the Dreamroot's whisper echoed in her mind. She closed her eyes and let her breath slow. Within the library's gentle hum, she listened, not to sound, but to the thread of longing woven into the air. A child's voice, thin, trembling. I remember, the stars, Mama's voice, the pages, gone. Isla opened her eyes, tears blurring her vision. I hear you, she whispered. We will weave it again. With slow, deliberate strokes, she began to write, words rising from the thread's pulse. There was a boy named Kale who loved the old tales. Each night, beneath a blanket of stars, his mother would read to him from a book of wonders. Dragons that flew through silver skies, rivers that sang beneath the moon. The ink danced across the page, glowing faintly as if in approval. Then came the fire. Smoke swallowed the stars, and the boy's stories turned to ash. Isla's breath caught. But not all was lost, she whispered aloud, her quill steady. For the stars remembered. The library remembered. And now, the story begins anew. The book pulsed softly, words flowing of their own accord now. Kale grew, seeking the stories that had once brought him light. And through ink and memory, he found them once more. The final page turned of its own will. Thank you, Keeper. The soot faded from the cover, revealing a simple title. Kale and the Stars. A thread of light rose from the book, weaving gently around Isla's wrist before drifting upward into the library's unseen loom. The child's voice echoed softly one last time. You remembered me. Isla closed her journal, heart full. Today, a lost voice was heard. A story reclaimed. One thread mended. She rose, the book cradled gently in her hands. As she stepped back into the library's living halls, a soft chorus whispered. She weaves. She listens. The dream deepens. And with quiet purpose, Isla walked onward, ready for the next thread. Word of Isla's first weaving traveled swiftly through the library's unseen currents. Soft glimmers of acknowledgement followed her steps, books whose spines now gleamed faintly in passing, whispers of "she listens" drifting through alcoves and arches. Yet her heart remained quiet, centered. One voice reclaimed, she wrote in her journal that evening. And many yet to hear. The next morning, Lysen awaited her once more beneath the starlit window. You walk well, the librarian said softly. And now, others will walk with you. She led Isla through halls she had not yet seen, deeper passages where walls were inscribed with names of keepers long past, ink flowing through their letters like gentle rivers. At the end stood a great circular chamber. Its ceiling glowed with shifting constellations. Around its edges, keepers gathered, some cloaked in deep emerald, others in robes of twilight blue, each bearing a silver quill. The keeper's circle, Lysen whispered. Here we meet. Here we weave together. The circle's eldest keeper, an ageless woman called Marion, rose to address them. A new voice joins us, she said. One who has restored a lost tail and mended a wing long sealed. She gestured to Isla. Isla Ivren, keeper of the Dreamroot. Step forth. Heart steady, Isla moved to the circle's center. Marion's gaze was kind. Tell us, keeper, what do you seek within these halls? Isla's voice rang clear. I seek to listen. To remember. To weave what was lost into light once more. A soft hum rose from the circle, a chorus of threads aligning. Then be welcome among us, Marion said. Walk with us. Weave with us. As the circle dissolved into gentle conversation, a young keeper approached Isla, a man with eyes the color of sea glass and a smile warm as a hearth. I am Fun, he said. Dreamroot called you, as it once called me. They spoke quietly in the starlit alcove, sharing stories of first weavings, of whispered voices, of the wonder that flowed beneath ink and page. You listen well, Fun said softly. The library has much yet to show you. Isla smiled. I am ready. Later that night, beneath her starlit window, Isla wrote once more. I have found a circle. A thread beyond myself. And tomorrow, new voices will call. She closed the journal, heart full. Beyond her study, the library breathed, alive with stories yet untold. And within her, the dream deepened still.